You are welcome back to Teach Nepal. Today I'm here with a different interpretation of Hansel and Gretel, the story of Great 12, Heritage of Words, and I'm here with the interpretations of Jack Gibbs and Bruno Bettelheim. They have made two different interpretations of the same story, Hansel and Gretel. So I'm basically here to talk about the differences made by these two writers. So this text, Hansel and Gretel, is perceived or is viewed by differently by the different writers. So Jack Gibbs and Bruno Bettelheim, they have perceived or they have interpreted the story from Marxist and the psychological point of view respectively. So here you see this is the frequent asked question in grade 12 NEB examination, NEB that board exam. So the question is, what are the differences between Jack Gibbs' interpretation of the story Hansel and Gretel and Bruno Bettelheim's interpretation? So this is asked in long question. So I'm telling you about the both types of interpretations made by these both writers, and finally I'll be telling you the major differences between these two types of interpretations made by Jack Gibbs and Bruno Bettelheim. So let's see what does Jack Gibbs say about this story Hansel and Gretel. So first of all सुरुमा चाहिँ यो ज्याक जिब्सको स्टोरी अथवा इन्टरप्रिटेसन अथवा ब्रुनो बेटलहेमको इन्टरप्रिटेसन भन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ हामीलाई के थाहा हुनुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि व्हाट इज दिस स्टोरी अबाउट हेन्सेल एन्ड ग्रेटल के को बारेमा छ मलाई सो आई एम सपोजिङ दैट यु नो द स्टोरी हेन्सेल एन्ड ग्रेटल तपाईहरुलाई हेन्सेल एन्ड ग्रेटल थाहा छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ आई एम टेलिङ यु द इन्टरप्रिटेसन बिकज स्टोरी मेन स्टोरी थाहा नभइकन इन्टरप्रिटेसन थाहा हुन गाह्रो हुन्छ सो ज्याक जिब्स perceives this story, or he interprets this story from the Marxist point of view. See, Karl Marx, what does he say? He says that there are two classes in the society: working class and that is the rich family or aristocrat family, right? And there is always the tussle and conflict between the working class and the rich family. काम गर्ने वर्ग र काम गराउने वर्ग, राइट? सो शासक वर्ग र शोषित वर्ग भन्छ र त्यो दुईटाको बिचमा चाहिँ जहिले कन्फ्लिक्ट भइरहन्छ र जहिले द्वन्द्व भइरहन्छ र जो चाहिँ अप्रेस्ड हुन्छ, जो चाहिँ दबिएको हुन्छ, उसले चाहिँ आफ्नो लडाईको लागि, आफ्नो राइट्सको लागि चाहिँ स्ट्रगल गरिरहन्छ भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ सो देयर इन द स्टोरी we can see the poor woodcutter family, right? We have nothing to eat during the famine and starvation, but the witch, you see, she had collected so many things. She had jewelries, jewels, she had so many things to eat, right? So we can consider the writer here, Jack Gibbs, he has interpreted this story from this Marxist perspectives. So according to Karl Marx, there are always two classes in the society: the higher class, they are bourgeois, and the working class, right? It is the story of hope and victory. Hope and victory, that means see, people will be hopeful about their future. There are certain things when they don't have, right, anything. आज केही छैन भने भोलि के हुन्छ, हामीले जितिन्छ अथवा हामीले चाहिँ केही प्राप्त गरिन्छ भन्ने खालको कुराहरू. Because the children were optimistic about the thing, though they were deserted, though they were left in the forest, they were optimistic, they were hopeful about getting something meaningful, getting something fine at last. So the groups of rich, aristocrats and feudal भनेको चाहिँ सबै कुराहरू, प्रोडक्सनहरू अनि सबै ल्यान्डहरू, सबै गुड्सहरू चाहिँ एब्जर्भ गरेर कलेक्ट गरेर राख्ने र अरूलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो डोमिनेसनमा पार्ने. द्याट्स व्हाट इज फ्युडलिजम. सो हाम्रो गाउँघरतिर भन्दा हलिया प्रथा थियो. त्यो हलिया प्रथामा चाहिँ मुखिया हुने र अरूले चाहिँ कसरी काम मात्र गर्नु भने हलो मात्र जोत्नु पर्ने, राइट? सो द्याट्स व्हाट इज फ्युडलिजम. एरिस्टोक्रेट भनेको कुलीन खानदान, धनी अथवा कुलीन, द्याट्स व्हाट इज रिच क्लास. लोअर क्लास सोसाइटी, पोर एन्ड पिजेन्ट. पिजेन्ट मिन्स फार्मर, राइट? सो हाम्रो कन्ट्रीमा भन्दाखेरि जसले हलो जोतेर अर्को घरमा चाहिँ आफ्नो फ्यामिलीलाई चाहिँ सर्भाइभ गराउनु पर्थ्यो, द्याट्स व्हाट इज पिजेन्ट फ्यामिली. सो इन दिस वे Jack Gibbs focuses on Marxist point of view while interpreting the story Hansel and Gretel. So he talks about the bourgeois, working class, and he talks about the aristocrats, he talks about the poor and peasants. He compares these things in this story. So let's see what does it say. The witch in this story represents the entire feudal system, right? Because witch has collected so many things there. Though the woodcutter family, they don't have anything to eat during the famine. The witch has collected so many things, and the children and the parents represent the poor working class. In the feudal system, the rich landlords exploit the poor peasants. So the same thing happens in this story. they captured the whole production, and the working class people have always scarcity of food. कसैले चाहिँ त्यसलाई कलेक्ट गरेर राख्नु र कसैसँग चाहिँ नहुने अभाव हुने scarcity of food. In the story, the witch has collected a lot of treasure, sampati, and food. The struggle of the children with the witch is the struggle against high. Important thing you see, यसलाई चाहिँ important thing भन्न सकिन्छ. जुन चिल्ड्रेनहरूले विचसँग फाइट गरेर उनीहरूले आफ्नो भिक्टिम जिते, जसै विचलाई चाहिँ उनीहरूले चाहिँ they killed the witch and they saved themselves from that, right? And they collected the jewels and they got back home safely, right? That struggle is what you call the struggle between the aristocrat, struggle between the high class and low class people against high class people whose house is filled with various foods when there is not any food in the house of the poor, right? So this is what you call the classism in the society and the struggle between them. Now, moving towards the next interpretation that is made by Bruno Bettelheim, he perceives this story from different things, psychological point of view, right? अघिल्लो चाहिँ Marxist point of view the class हेऱ्यो, the tussle हेऱ्यो, class differences, right? धनी र गरिब हुने र हुँदा खाने र चाहिँ हुने खाने वर्गको, right? So he perceives this from psychological as well as culture. So जे कुरा भइरहेछ स्टुडेन्ट त्यसलाई चाहिँ उसले psychological point of view बाट र cultural point of view बाट हेरिरहेछ, right? So you see, psychological, what is meant by psychology? It's a study of our mind. It talks about our emotions, it talks about our feelings, it talks about happiness, right? It talks about our mood also, and the cultural meaning is the thing that is happening in the story. The stepmother treats, the way the stepmother treats with the stepchildren, that is because of the social practices, because of society assumes a stepmother to be not so pleasant, to be rude with the students, right? Stepmother चाहिँ यस्तो हुन्छ भनेर सोसाइटी एज्युम गरे भएर stepmother ग्रोथ त्यसो देखाइएको भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ this interpretation talks about in that way, right? So hidden meaning, house of the witch, which is made up of bread and sweets, is nothing but a mother. अब अघि witchलाई चाहिँ there aristocrat अथवा bourgeoisसँग हेरियो, right? Marxist perspective बाट Jack Gibbsको अनुसार. But here Bruno Bettelheim considers witch, right, or the house of the witch as the mother, because mother भनेको जब children भोकाउँछ, जब children बच्चाहरु हुन्छ त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ खाना दिने काम चाहिँ मदरको हुन्छ, आमाको हुन्छ. Just like that, the witch house or the witch is doing the same thing. जंगलबाट भोकाएर गएका बच्चाहरुलाई खाना दिने र सुताउने काम गरेको हुन्छ, अघिल्लो दिन त गरेको हुन्छ नि त, right? So just like that, she is considered as a mother. We understand the fact that we can overcome the dangerous situation if we act very carefully and wisely. कुनै पनि सिचुएसनमा हामी चाहिँ एकदम केयरफुली त्यसलाई चाहिँ फाइट गर्यो भने हामीले त्यो टाइमलाई, त्यो सर्कमस्टेन्सहरुलाई चाहिँ ओभरकम गर्न सकिन्छ, right? So the story reveals the bitter truth that the poverty, scarcity and hardships, these things lead people towards selfishness. जब मान्छेमा गरिबी हुन्छ, जब मान्छे चाहिँ आफ्नो जिन्दगीको कठिन परिस्थितिमा आउँछ, त्यसपछि मान्छेहरुलाई चाहिँ सेल्फिश बनाउँछ, ट्रिभियल बनाउँछ, राइट? त्यसपछि नराम्रो काम गर्न बाध्य बनाउँछ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ that's psychological point of view बाट चाहिँ हेरिरहेको. So stepmother, why did the father and the stepmother, they were interested in, or they were forced to send the children to the forest? Because they had no food to feed the children. खानेकुराको अभाव थियो, त्यो भएर उनीहरु बाध्य थिए. In that way, the writer Bruno Bettelheim perceives this story. So Hansel and Gretel have been left in the forest in order to give them a chance to learn to live independently, right? So because of the cruelty of the stepmother, the children, the Hansel and Gretel, they suffer a lot. However, the suffering and hardship that made the children mature. So उनीहरुले गरेको स्ट्रगलले गर्दा चाहिँ उनीहरु आफू मच्योर हुन सिकेको हुन्छ, राइट? सो कहिलेकाहीँ चाहिँ के हुन्छ, मान्छे चाहिँ चोक्टा खान गएको बुढी झोलमा डुबेर मर्यो भन्छ नि नेपाली, राइट? सो देयर इज अ डेन्जर अफ ग्रीड एन्ड टेम्पटेसन. जब मान्छे अलिकति लोभ लालच आउँछ, त्यसपछि डेन्जर टाइम एन्ड सिचुएसन्स वी हैव टु फेस देयर, राइट? त्यो ह्यान्सेल एन्ड ग्रेटेलले चाहिँ त्यो हाउसमा भएको चाहिँ त्यो चकलेट हाउस, राइट? उनीहरुले त्यो खानाको लोभले गर्दा, त्यो टेम्पटेसनले गर्दा they were in problem because they were in the conspiracy of the witch, right? And the word witch, they are the sources of food and they are symbolized as mother, right? House like the sources of food like चाहिँ Bruno Bettelheim ले चाहिँ mother ग्रुपमा कुरा गरेको छ. So the white dog that helps, right? The white dog that have Hansel and Gretel, right? The white bird helped Hansel and Gretel to find the witch house, and the white dog helped Hansel and Gretel to cross the river while they came out of the witch house, right? So that is what we call the symbol of peace. That is considered as the symbol of peace. All in all, Jack Gibbs talks about the Marxist perspective, where he talks about the classism, the lower class and higher class, the woodcutter's family, lower class, and the witch, she is considered as the high class. उसले चाहिँ कहिले कतै चाहिँ स्टेप मदरलाई पनि हाई क्लासमा राखेको र स्टेप चिल्ड्रेनलाई चाहिँ डोमिनेटेड ग्रुप र स्टेप मदरलाई चाहिँ डोमिनेटिङ ग्रुपमा राखेर चाहिँ त्यो क्लासिजममा हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यसरी पनि हेरेको पाइन्छ. But here, according to Bruno Bettelheim, it's purely psychological story, or he considers this from a psychological point of view, because he talks about the different things, emotions and social culture. Moreover, besides talking about psychological meaning or psychological perspective, he talks about the cultural and social meanings too, right? So because what is the role of mother, step mother in our society, right? Or what does our society perceive the role of the step mother? That is cruel, that is rude, right? That is not loving one. So the same thing is represented in the story. It is the case that the lower class, the lower or the powerless one, grab their right and get victory over the powerful ones, right? So the kids are also on that powerless or weak or let's say एक दिन fight गरेर आफ्नो victory अथवा आफ्नो train अथवा विजय प्राप्त गर्छन्. And similarly, the killing of the witch symbolizes the hatred of working class against the oppressor, right? So witchलाई चाहिँ मार्नुमा चाहिँ के थियो भन्दा hatred, that's psychological point of view, right? Emotionसँग जोडिएको कुरा. Witchलाई मार्नु अथवा childrenहरुले चाहिँ step motherलाई चाहिँ after they got back the home, they didn't ask about the step mother, or though they found that step mother was dead, they didn't worry about that. Right? They didn't express any kind of unpleasant feeling. So that shows that the children had the feeling of hatred, and when they killed the witch, they had the feeling of hatred there. So it is about love, it's about hatred, it's about fear, right? And it is next thing is that the children, they don't show any kind of hatred against somehow, right? Step motherलाई चाहिँ उनीहरूले जुन काम स्टेप मदरले गरेर हुन्छ त्यो कामलाई चाहिँ उनीहरूले त्यति नेगेटिभली लिएको हुँदैन. They have known well that step mother is guided by the norms of the society. Or step mother is, what is the step mother doing, or what the step mother was doing was the things considered or assumed by the society. Society जे कुरा सोचेको छ अथवा सोसाइटीले जे भन्छ त्यो कुरा नै फलो भएर हामीले त्यसमा चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ ठुलो इस्युको रूपमा लिनुहुन्न. They are thinking in this story. So the last point here, right, that is the interpretation. It is an important thing, right? For exam, the same thing will be asked, and most of the time it has been asked. 10 marks को लागि 10 marks लागि तपाईहरुले तयारी गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. And let's see how can we differentiate the two types of stories, two types of interpretations made by Bruno Bettelheim and Jack Gibbs. So Jack Gibbs, he talks about the Marxist point of view. Bruno Bettelheim, he talks about psychological point of view. First point clear, right? त्यसमा तपाईहरुले यतापटि एरिस्टोक्र्याट र उतापटि पुअर फ्यामिलीको कुरा गर्नुभयो, right? High class or low class. Like psychological point of view, love, hatred, right? Fear, temptation. You have to talk about greed, these things, psychological things. You have to talk about high class and low class, emotions, fear, temptation, hatred. Next thing is feudal and peasant family. Feudalism or the peasant family, right? Where feudalism भनेको एब्जर्भ गरेर राख्ने कुलीन खानदानको मान्छे र peasant भनेको working class. Social and cultural meanings. Right? Social and cultural meaning means what is the social and cultural value, or what does our society consider about the stepmother? Stepmother कसरी हेर्छ सोसाइटीले? त्यसले नराम्रो रूपबाट हेरेको होइन, त्यो स्टोरीमा पनि त्यही नराम्रो रोल दिएको हो भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ ब्रुनो बेटलहाइमले गरेर आउँछ. Next is which is aristocrat, but which is the mother who gave them the food? Jack Gibbs considers the witch as the aristocrat or the dominating group, right? But which is considered differently by Bruno Bettelheim. He says that which is the source of food, who gave the children lots of food while they were hungry. And next thing, story of victory and hope. This is the story of selfishness, cruelty, and bad deeds. Right? It is story. के को story हो? निर्दयपना, यो चाहिँ खराब काम गर्ने प्रवृत्ति मान्छेहरु चाहिँ किन खराब काम गर्छ भन्दा when they are compelled, when they are forced. But this is the story of victory आएको आज केही नराम्रो भयो भने पक्कै भोलि अथवा केही समयपछि राम्रो हुन्छ भने. Next thing is that Hansel and Gretel are victim due to exploitation, right? Due to the exploitation of the witch and due to the exploitation of the mother, stepmother. But here society has made the children victims. Stepmother like society किनकि stepmother ले त आफू नखाए children पनि खाँदैन बरु हामीसँग बस्छ भन्ने खालको feel पनि आउन सक्थ्यो नि त, isn't that so? But according to the society, right, the writer considers the role of stepmother different thing in the society. Next thing is that stepmother considered as an oppressor in high class. Stepmother is supposed to have practiced social values and the assumptions or social values and norms. Social mother like stepmother as an oppressor group हेर्यो तर चाहिँ stepmother like Bruno Bettelheim ले चाहिँ एउटा social values and norms practice गरेको अथवा practice त्यसको practitioner को रूपमा चाहिँ हेरेको छ. Overall, what you have to understand is Jack Gibbs talks about classism in the society, the economic inequality, and because of the economic inequality, there are the different classes in the society, right? Bourgeois and the peasant family, the working class family, right? And there is a tussle between these things. And according to Bruno Bettelheim, the story Hansel and Gretel is about this. It's a story of fear. It's a story of hatred. It's a story of love. It's a story of selfishness. It's a story of bad deeds because of all the situation created by our circumstances. So thank you so much for watching the video. Please consider this as the most important question for your NEB, right, grade 12 examination, and be prepared accordingly for the long question answers. Thank you so much for watching the video.